Big news. Chelsea have offered 25 million plus 2 stars in a bid for Everton star Anthony Gordon. The 2 stars in question are Armando Broja and Conor Gallagher. The London Giants' latest bid of 25 million plus Conor Gallagher and Armando Broja, it demonstrates that they are very interested in the player and they will do anything to get their man Anthony Gordon. After repeated rejections from Everton, Chelsea are going all out to make sure this bid is accepted. They get their man. After Conor Gallagher's performance against Leeds and the disastrous performance against Leicester, I called it in my previous video that he will not stay at Chelsea. He's not of the standard as of yet. So it only makes sense why Chelsea would include him in a part exchange for Anthony Gordon, because they want him to have experience, game time for another season in the Premier League. After Armando Broja did not start or come off the bench against Leicester, it showed that Thomas Tuchel does not trust him as of yet. So it only makes sense that he too is included in the bid to sign Anthony Gordon. And after Anthony Gordon's performance against Brentford, where he scored, I'm sure Thomas Tuchel wants him even more. Chelsea are toothless up front, so it only makes sense that he would go for a player that is getting a bit of experience as a false nine. And he's not doing bad as a false nine this season, so he does have the know-how needed for Thomas Tuchel to want him in his team. The reason Thomas Tuchel chose these two players specifically is because he still rates them. He believes that these are the two players that could come back in a season or two and come into the team and play. But the problem is they are not ready this season. So it's pointless keeping players that Thomas Tuchel will never play. And we all know that Thomas Tuchel is a very stubborn coach. He likes specific players and he gives specific players opportunities. As much as Emerson was the model professional, he did not play him. So it's pointless keeping talented players like these on the bench when he can sacrifice them and buy a player that can have an impact immediately. That's why even Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to leave Chelsea, because he won't make an impact now. So rather loan out players that have talent or potential and buy talented players that are going to be used right now. The reason Thomas Tuchel wants to buy Anthony Gordon is because he's a young player. He can mold him to the type of player he wants. And we know that modern coaches prefer younger players, unlike the coaches of yesteryears, like the Mourinhos, who wants more experienced players that have the grit. They are the type of players that old coaches want, not the type of players the modern coaches want. So much as Anthony Gordon is inexperienced in the Premier League, he has done enough to signal to Thomas Tuchel that he can do the job for Chelsea. Anthony Gordon is a tricky player. What Chelsea have been missing ever since Eden Hazard has left the team is a player with trickery, a player that can do tricks to eliminate the opposition, to remove an obstacle or a threat in order to play a ball to players that are in open space. The other reason Thomas Tuchel wants Anthony Gordon is that he can take players on. How many times has Chelsea fans watched a match where the players keep on passing the ball instead of taking their man on? So Anthony Gordon is going to eliminate that. He's going to take on players. He's going to bring more unpredictability to the Chelsea attack, because the Chelsea attack is predictable. They want to pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball, and in a low block, they want to pass it back to the midfielders and back again to the goalkeeper and the defense, because they don't know what to do to penetrate a low block. So with players that can take on a defender, it's more advantageous for the attack, because now opportunities will arise. They don't have to stand there crossing their hands or shouting at each other because they passed the ball back when the player was open. The final reason is because the player has grit, fighting spirit. If you were to look at Chelsea's players or current players, they don't have grit. Every time it goes wrong for them, they crumble immediately, their heads drop. But because Anthony Gordon is used to playing for Everton, a team that always fights relegation, he has instilled grit. He has grit in his DNA because he always fights for the team, always fights relegation. So that will add the needed grit in a team that doesn't have. And the Chelsea attack needs players with grit, players that are going to fight until the end. Every time they are faced with a low block, they need to fight. They don't have to shrug their shoulders and say, oh well, there's nothing we can do. Now they will be able to do something because Anthony Gordon is going to fight for an opening. He's going to fight for the team. He won't accept that their Achilles heel is a low block.